Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on August 13th, 2021 at approximately 10 a.m. PST. Well, I started off looking at something yesterday, also known as fear. And as I said yesterday, you have one choice that must be made immediately because, well, frankly, until you make that decision, making the next one, you're at a crossroads right now. Everybody is at literally the same crossroads. You are, regardless of how you got there, okay, right this moment, you are right here, right now. Doesn't matter what kind of a background you got, doesn't matter what kind of, that was poor English, doesn't matter what kind of education you've got, how much money you've got in the bank, how many people know you or follow you, or whatever. The reality is you are right here, right now. Okay. Now, the neat part about it is being as we're all in literally the same place. Okay, the same place, the same time. Right, well, not the same place, but we are all in the same time. It is imperative people start realizing that working together, we can make this a better world. But the reality behind making it a better world is it takes effort, and it's going to take effort on everybody's part. Doesn't matter how much education you've got, doesn't matter what kind of physical limitations, or for that matter, mental limitations you have. Okay, it's time to take stock of exactly who you are, what you're capable of. And understand, I don't mean what other people say you're capable of. Okay, there's a great many things that I would recommend you don't do. There are very few that you cannot do. Okay, now I'm not going to tell you some of the things that you cannot do because I've seen way too often somebody puts a challenge out there. And, I can't blame people for putting what I consider absolutely ill thought out challenges. You know, quite frankly, an ill thought out challenge is what cost the Lemurians their entire civilization about 40,000 years ago. Okay, but the reality of it is this. Okay, decisions get made because people haven't seen what happens. Okay, I wonder what happens. Wonder what would happen if you push that button. If I push that button, and all of a sudden you've got an explosion or a gun goes off and the planet goes away. Okay, I wonder what would happen if I jumped off the. And this is the one that I faced, and I chose not to find out. I wonder what would happen if I fell off the ferry. If I fell off the cruise line, if you will, in the middle of the ocean. Now, had I decided to follow through with that thought line, you wouldn't be talking to me today unless you happen to be a medium. Okay. Now, the reality of it is your life is where it is. There's nothing you can do about the fact it is where it is. How you got there is all laid out. There's no changing that. You are where you are. Now, here's what you can change. It doesn't matter how many tools anybody gives you. If you don't pick the tools up, it's not going to happen. Okay. You're the only one in existence that can be successful for you. Now, you remember that neat little sign that I put up here that says, I have attained a minimum of $2,000 by August 31st of 2021. 2,000 being what I require to run my household. Well, I'm happy to report that as of yesterday, I broke that amount. I have broke that barrier that I was looking at. Now I'm working on a few other things on what to do with the money because now it's a case of aim for down the road. Okay. Now, all the plans, you can talk about all the things you desire. Okay, make all the plans you'd like. Now, I live by a simple philosophy. Complicated and simple at the same time. You plan for the best, you brace for the worst, but you live for the moment. Now, I've got a goal. I've got to check on numbers, and actually, I've got to talk to my little brother, come to think of it, because he's the one that I take the lead from where it comes to mathematical calculations if I'm not certain. Okay, because I know what his brain works like. So, I will be talking to him. The next time I talk to him, it's nothing critical at this point. He'll be here in a little while anyway. But I will find out from him how much money I've got to put aside, and I figured out yesterday where to put it. So I'm going to move some stuff in there immediately here. I've only got, well, we're in August here, so I've only got, realistically, 5 months to get the money together. Not a lot of time. But if I handle it right, I should be able to pull off a pretty fair chunk of it, and that's why I want his input, is to know what my target numbers are. I do know I've attained the one goal that I had. Okay, the other goal, and I've got to work this out today, because I want to find out what I require for my business. Now, theoretically, if I run just the 2,000, that's fine. Okay, then if I run it just that amount, then frankly, for my business, I only require, because of the tax laws, I only require 200 for the business. Well, the nice part there is, I know I'll make that this month, so I'm looking at pushing limits. Same as I've already laid out, and again, this is these are all tools that I personally use. I know they work because they have worked. Okay, they've worked for not only me, but they've worked for many, many, many other people as well. And I do encourage you to put them to use. Okay, for instance, the concept of Feng Shui, which really boils down to energy direction. Okay, which is why my desk right now is actually in really good shape, in my opinion anyway. I've got the stuff out of the way that I needed that I required out of the way. And now it's time, realistically, it's time for you to get your stuff out of the way. Don't need that. Oh, wait a minute. I did something today, and no, I did not. Usually I get a receipt. Today I did not, but that's okay. I used my bank card, so I can go into the bank, and I will deal with that. I've got this standard list beside me of things that I have to deal with, so that's on my list, and I do have to get it moved over there. So let's do that. Put that back where it came from. Yeah, I putter while I'm doing this, but this is just me. Actually, in all fairness, it's probably a whole pile of people. But, that said, I just work with what I got, and we'll see what happens from there. So we grab this, and we move it over here so we can get that left hand of ours working properly. You know, it just dawned on me. Here I am talking about what I'm doing when I was a kid, and some of you my age, I'm 58 now, some of you my age probably remember it. There was a kid show on called The Friendly Giant. And he used to do the same thing. He'd stand there and he'd go, I'm doing this, while he's talking to you. Right? And it just dawned on me while I'm doing this is kind of the same idea. And for sort of the same reason. He was trying to help people see that, you know, life goes on. Here's a way that you can deal with things. And the reality behind your life is this. Decide. It sure worked that one out well. By the way, this is a live recording. Meaning, when I get done this, I will check, make sure I got the date right. And then I will turn around and I will post it. I will not edit it. I don't change any of the hiccups, any of the stumbles. Because the way I see it is this. If you ever actually meet me in person, you'll find I talk the same way. When I'm sitting down, yeah, quite often I'll talk with my hands. If I'm standing up talking to you, no, but the speech pattern will be the same. I'll double back on myself quite readily. Okay, but one of the things that was quick. Amazing, I caught it. Usually I don't. Anyway, when you're taking a look at where your life is, take a look at what's going on. Are you yourself, regardless of the people around you, are you personally happy with the way your life is? Okay, myself, I'm quite happy with most of it. There are things I'm not content with. And this was something that I found out, thanks again to my little brother for sending me a clip that helped immensely in understanding. I mean, the first 15 minutes of the YouTube video, all it did was confirm what I already knew. It was the other 5 minutes that really mattered. The last 5 minutes that really helped. And this is where it comes back to this issue of what I was talking about yesterday. right this moment, you have a choice to make. Are you going to live in fear as propagated by religion, by social media, by advertising? Are you going to let, and by past records of your own, like past actions? Are you going to continue living in fear, or are you going to alter the energy that you're living with? Okay, alter the path your energy has been following and guide it into a more prosperous, more enjoyable path. Okay, now, if you desire the latter, if you desire the more enjoyable path, okay, give us a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to our channel, okay, because there's a lot of information and we're just getting started. We finally figured out a proper road to go down, okay, but the message we came back to pass on is that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. There will be those of you out there that go, I want to control everybody. I want to be at the top of the totem pole. And like I've told people, I personally have no interest in being at the top of the totem pole. Okay, it just doesn't interest me that much. But I was talking to a gentleman one day, and it was priceless the way he put it, because I was telling him, I just don't want to be in the spotlight. I'm just not that interested. You know, I don't desire people putting me on the pedestal. And what this guy came back with, he says, well, he says, too bad. If you're doing something well, if you're following a path that other people admire or look forward, look up to, they're going to put you on a pedestal themselves. Whether you want it or not is irrelevant. But you do have a choice as to whether you're going to see yourself on that pedestal looking down on people. Now, the reality of it is, I see everybody equally. Okay. Yes, there are differences between people. Absolutely. But I've never differentiated between people because they were living on the street or because they were millionaires. The money doesn't matter to me from that end. Okay. And the only time I happen to look down on people, if I can avoid it, is if I happen to be standing up and I'm taller than they are, or I'm standing and they're sitting, that sort of thing. I will look down on people if it is physically a requirement. Okay. But even when I'm trying to talk to a child, I will crouch down to their level, in spite of a bad knee, and sometimes that gets me in trouble. But the decision you've got to make is this. Are you going to continue living in fear? I decided I'm not doing that anymore. I don't fear death. Of course, in my case, I've been dead enough times I really don't have any reason to fear it. I know what's over there. Okay. And rest assured, much as what they teach you in many religions is intriguing, the end game is not what you're being taught, at least not from my experience. Now, you can live in the fear of dying, and you can live in the fear of what's going to happen to me after I die. That is your choice. Okay. Now, I got handed an interesting situation the other day. Now, don't get me wrong. Boy, that went back and forth, didn't it? Don't get me wrong. I do believe in what is termed tithing, in helping others. But I refuse to give money to the church. I refuse to give money to what they call organized charities, like nonprofit organizations, that sort of thing. Okay, I just don't do it. And the reason I don't is not because they're not good organizations. The reason I don't is because the administration costs in most of those things only puts a small percentage of the money of that donation to whatever they're claiming to do. Okay, now that's just the way society is built. For me, if I take a look at my paycheck and I go, okay, I'm going to donate 10% of that. Okay, which is something I'm now in a position I can do. But that 10% will be dictated by me only, not by a board of directors. Okay, even with my company, I do not, like, I've got everything laid out so I could have a board of advisors, but I will not have a board of directors because I will have control over what I do. But if I take a look at my paycheck, okay, and the money comes in, I go, okay, I've got, let's just for simplicity's sake, let's say I've got 50 bucks. Let's say it was a small paycheck and I only got 500 and I want to pay 10%. I want to donate 10%. So that gives me 50 bucks. So what I do is I take that 50 and I go to a restaurant and I go, see that table there? And they go, yeah. I say, okay, I'm picking up that tab. I don't have to know who the person is. Same as a grocery store. The point being, if I take that money and use it to give somebody a free meal, even if they're working, this is not just for the people on the street. People on the street, I look at it this way. Now, I will help the ones on the street, depending, but it is absolutely critical. When I'm talking to them, I have to feel that they are being honest. Okay, and that they're making an effort themselves. Point in fact, there was a gentleman that I talked to on the street one day. He was out begging, and I'm quite grateful I've never ended up in that position. But he was out begging, he was there begging, and I asked him what put him there. And his comment was he had a job, but he had no money for anything extra. So, of course, I'm looking at it going, well, have you considered going across the street and right across the parking lot, right there, and getting a part-time job? Because I know for an absolute fact they will work around your current job, and that was this particular company in this particular location. I just happen to know the managers. I says, I know they work around your schedule, so you can have that little extra money. Well, his immediate reaction was, I'm not working for McDonald's. Basically, he was saying, I'd rather beg on the street than put effort in. Okay, now virtually every spiritual guideline I've ever seen follows the idea that God or the Spirit or universe or whatever you want to call it, will help those that help themselves. And rest assured, they are not referring to thieves. If somebody is not willing to put effort into helping themselves, then frankly, I'm certainly not putting money into helping them. On the flip side of that, I had a gentleman that was outside begging, and I asked him what was going on, what put him there, and he goes, look, he says, my problem is this, I've got a full-time job. He says, I can barely keep a roof over my head, but I'm keeping a roof over my head, I've got my bills all paid up to date. And he says, but the problem is, I'm an alcoholic. He says, I've been into AA, into the program 4 times. I'm scheduled to go in on Thursday to start again. Now, understand, this was on Tuesday. He says, if you give me money, I'm going into the liquor store and I'm going to buy, I'm going to end up drinking it. And I looked at him and I says, understandable. So I turned around, handed him $5, and he looks at me and he goes, I just told you I was going to drink this, and you gave me $5. I said, look, critical factor. You're doing what you can to get yourself out of this bind. You're being honest, and you're having trouble. Well, if I look at it from a spiritual guideline, let's go to a massive majority of people. A massive number of people. I don't honestly know if it's a majority. But if you find, because I was raised Christian, okay, I believe wholeheartedly in Jesus Christ, in God. And Jesus himself helped the poor. He helped the sick. Now, how can I look at you and go, I'm a spiritual guide. Here's a man, he's struggling. Yes, he's ill, but he's being honest. And that was the whole key right there. He'd already done everything he could. He'd already scheduled himself to go in, to go back in and get help. And these groups, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, many support groups for PTSD, for depression, these groups are decent groups. Okay. I question some of what they do, but that's okay. They work for literally thousands of other people. So, from my standpoint, he was doing what he could. By all means. Now, it's not a question of him doing the right thing or me going, oh, you're an alcoholic, here, have some alcohol. What I did was say, okay, you're being honest, you're going in, you're suffering right now, and you're having a lot of trouble with it, but you're striving to get out of it. So was this counterproductive? Physically, probably. Mentally, it did him the world of good. Okay, and am I going to sit here and say you should always give alcoholics alcohol? Absolutely not. Quite frankly, most people, I'll tell them, if you're in a relationship and your partner is alcoholic, I'll tell them point blank, dump the alcohol out. Make active alcohol in your house a flat line. Like, it's just a no-go. For people that are living with alcoholism, okay, and I mean, I went through it. I was going through a 26er a night without even blinking. Okay, now I'm an odd example from that department. But the question here is this, the real question it boils down to is, are you going to fear that change? What do I do if I don't have that anchor around my neck? Well, I'll tell you, I used to kill, like I said, a 26er a night, and I was always looking for the alcohol. I was always going to the bar. Even if I was tired, I was going down to the bar to get it, which is really kind of funny when you think I had a better selection at home than most of the bars did. Okay, but the choice you've got to make is, are you going to choose to continue living in fear? To buy into the idea that if you don't behave in an absolute certain way, like one I heard the other day was just absolutely priceless. You've got to say he was a spiritual guide. Well, he ran a church. Now, and this is where all churches are not all different actual chapels or churches or temples are not the same. Even if they're of the same denomination. But this particular pastor went, in order for you to get and become prosperous, it's imperative you give me money, so again, that will tell God you're being generous, and therefore God will bring money to you. Well, here's the newsflash for you. Money isn't the root of all evil, but greed, which is what that particular person was operating on, is absolutely an evil act. In my opinion, if you're telling people, what it boils down to is spiritual blackmail in my eyes. Okay, I will tell you wholeheartedly, if somebody offers me money, I've yet to turn it down, as long as there's no strings attached. Or for that matter, if it feels as though they're not putting themselves into a bind. However, the tools I offer them completely for free. And the reason for it is this. I've been doing this for 48 years now. I've made money having people phone me for consultation on business, on personal, on UFO abductions, alien interactions, that sort of thing. I've been doing this for a coon's age. Okay. Which, in all fairness, I'm really not certain how old a coon lives. Raccoon, that is. But anyway. Okay. The reality is, the tools I offer, I do use them in my own life. Okay. And I do encourage you, if you're going to follow somebody, make certain that they're living by the laws they're pointing out. If they're saying you have to do this, make certain they're doing the same thing. If they're not, question whether or not following them is the right idea. Okay. Now, where it comes to the whole concept of how to get your life going, that's where this funny little list that I keep showing you comes in. For me, this has worked like an absolute godsend. Okay, it's absolutely been almost invaluable. It's kept me on track, made things happen for me, that sort of thing. But the choice you have to make is, are you going to stay on the path you're on? Are you that happy with your life the way it is? Or is it time for you to change? If it is, in your opinion, time for you to change, regardless of what the situation is, I will be more than happy to help guide you along the way. And again, whatever I'm talking about, these are, saying in simplest terms, it's my opinion based on my entire life's experience. Now, my life's experience happens to date back a long time. Somebody asked me just the other day how long I've been here. Well, the reality of it is this. I've got memories that date back to before this planet was built. Okay. Now, there are those of you that will look at science and go, well, science shows that it arrived because of a natural evolution, if you will. And I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. Okay, the reality is my beliefs are mine. If they match yours, if they explain things that you haven't looked at before, that's great. Okay, but double check the outlook. Okay, when I say this is what I've seen, that doesn't mean it's what everybody sees. Okay, and look at that. I can actually see the number. Um, like I said, I am working very, very diligently, in my opinion, on getting my life organized so that it will work right. Which is why when money showed up when I got a check in this morning, I immediately went, okay, I know where this has to go. I've got to work out a few things with it. But it boils down to, where finances are concerned, it boils down to this. A budget, in my opinion, has only ever worked for me when I had a static amount of money coming in. If your paycheck fluctuates, regardless of what you do, tracking what you're spending on your money will work a whole lot more effectively. Now, one of the things I get a kick out of, in a sense, just kind of a twisted kick, I get a lot of people, because I get calls from all walks of life, okay, especially through work. And the really bizarre thing is, they'll turn around and go, I'm having financial difficulties. What should I do? Well, for those of you that are having financial struggles, here's a key for you, and I'm not going to charge you a plug nickel for it. If you know how to set up a simple set of books to track what you're doing with your money, have at it and go that route. If you don't, set up an appointment with your financial advisor at your bank. These are the people that are already being paid to look after your money. They have the knowledge. Talk to them about finding out how to track your money on paper. Okay, or if you're still in school, take at least a first year class in accounting to get the basics on how to track. Because in tracking the money, you can figure out where you're overspending, you can figure out what kind of cash flow you've got, and thereby you can set yourself up for the future. As my father used to put it, you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. And I'll tell you, I'm sitting here able to look at the bank right now, and I made some mistakes earlier this year. But I did figure out where I was going wrong, and have, at least in theory, a few months more and I'll know for certain. But at least in theory, I figured out what I was doing wrong and have started correcting that. So the question is, are you interested in staying with the life path you've got? Are you happy with the people you've got around you? Are you happy with your cash flow? Okay, are you happy with the way that things are looking? Is your health doing what it should? If the answer is yes, then have at her. If not, the tools I offer are ones that I personally am using to get my own life in order. Okay, and I mean, in the last 6 months, I've come down 50 pounds without medication, just by altering my diet and my exercise level. Okay, and the fitness professionals that go, and I question whether they're professionals, but you see these ads that talk about this new medicine that's out that can drop 40 pounds in them, 10 pounds a week. Dropping 10 pounds a week, you may drop it, but I will tell you the one thing that is just plain obvious to me. You drop that kind of weight, and much as it's going to be hard on your system, something even worse, in my opinion, is it's going to leave an awful lot of skin just hanging there. I was talking to one chap that had lost a mind-boggling 200 pounds in the last year, but he said he had so much excess weight, now he had to figure out how to get that removed, the excess skin. Okay, from my standpoint, if you're losing 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds a week, you're losing it quick. It did not take you only a couple of minutes to get there. It took you probably years to get to where you are, given that we're not talking about a medical condition such as thyroid. Now, with that in mind, if you're happy with your life, that's great. If not, apply the tools that I've been offering. I encourage you to do so. They do work. I know they work because I use them myself. Okay, but give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the alert bell on the right side there to let you know when the new videos come out. I will be back again tomorrow, and until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.